Some battles don't happen in boardrooms. They happen in glances, in closed doors, and decisions made with no explanation. This is not a war of fire. It's a war of ice. And the wounds, they don't bleed. They bruise. Some battles don't happen in boardrooms. They happen in glances, in closed doors, and decisions made with no explanation. A noiseless front line. Leo still came to work on time, still smiled, still did the job, but he noticed. Messages ignored. Credits left off his name. Coffee cups filled for everyone except his. And no one said a word, because that's how this war was fought. No slander, no shouts, just emptiness. Voiceover, Mr. Bennet. The cruelest way to silence a man is not to stop him from speaking, but to convince everyone else he's no longer worth listening to. One evening, Leo stayed late. Not because of work, but because he didn't want to go home with this weight in his chest. Victor found him sitting in the quiet meeting room. "You all right?" "I thought we were making progress," Leo whispered, "but now it's like I'm the problem." Victor looked at him, then said, "Ever seen fog settle over a city? It doesn't fall, it just creeps. That's how doubt works." Leo nodded slowly. This wasn't about being wrong. It was about being outnumbered. Part 3, the smile that cuts. The next day, HR called him in. Not Kara. She was mysteriously on leave. Another officer. Friendly tone, firm eyes. "We've had some concerns about how your actions are affecting team cohesion. You're not in trouble, but maybe take some time to reflect." Leo asked, "Can you be more specific?" The officer smiled. "We're not pointing fingers, just hoping you'll realign." Word that meant fit in or find your way out. Injure way. Inner monologue. How do you fight a battle that doesn't declare itself? How do you defend against silence, against polite faces and closed networks? End part 4. The threshold. Leo stood outside the office, eyes lifted toward the sky. He thought of leaving. He thought of staying. He thought, what if both were losing? Then he heard a voice. "Ava, they're trying to erase you, not by force, but by memory." She paused. "But you're not forgotten." Then she handed him a flash drive. "There's more of us. We've been gathering notes, timelines, screenshots, but we can't publish it alone." Leo looked at her. She didn't flinch. This wasn't his war anymore. It had become theirs. "All right, their part 5, the choice." That night, Leo stared at the flash drive. His laptop blinked, screen open, cursor waiting. He could send it to the press. He could bury it. He could run. But instead, he opened a blank page, and he began to write, not for rage, not for revenge, but for truth. To anyone who feels invisible, you're not. And if you feel alone, that's how they want you to feel. But look closer. We're here. We always have been. He clicked send, and then he exhaled. They're not pointing fingers, but the people fighting them, they're loud in courage, in action, in presence. The quiet war doesn't end with explosions. It ends when the silence is no longer enough to contain the truth. And text on screen, next episode, Aftermath. Truth has a price, and once it's out, you can't put it back in the box.